Commission, Board, and my name is Wade Askew from York. You know, a lot of people don't have a very good relationship sometimes with their in-laws, but my father-in-law was very special to me. It seems like every day I want to run something from him, and I cherish the 20-some years that I had to spend with him. My father-in-law grew up on a farm, but he was a double major in trade from NC State. When World War II broke out, he was not called to the front line or anything because of his mathematical abilities and skills. He was called to go to Baltimore. And through the whole time, he worked in Baltimore as an electrical engineer and did electrical schematics for our fighter planes. And one of his, he got two here that he especially did plane work on, and he called them his babies. And this here is one of them. It was the A-30 Baltimore. And there's been a movie several years ago on the A-30 about the role that it played during World War II. And another plane that he was especially proud of, there was only 9 of them built, and that was a seaplane, which was the Mars. At the time, it was the largest seaplane in the world. Well, mathematical skills have always been good, of course, in my wife's family. Her great-grandfather was in Herbert County, and he's in the history book in Herbert County, and he was noted as the greatest mathematician in the world. And when she actually worked for her uncle for a while, which was a CPA, and I think she was very good at it. My brother-in-law was a CPA, and I'm especially proud of my nephew, which has got just a couple more tests to take, and he'll be a CPA, and he works for one of the largest firms here in North Carolina, which is Erskine & Young. He's a corporate auditor, and he travels all over the world. And whenever I need any advice on anything, he's the first one I call. But when it comes to the government, Erskine & Young also has a division which audits government also. And I asked my nephew about that, why can't you do government? He says you got to have an entirely different kind of schooling. If you don't understand and have that type of schooling, you might as well be getting everything out of whack. But I have a friend of his that I always call and get some information from. But at the last meeting, well, just to say, this was history. History always repeats itself. From World War I, then we went and had World War II. And when we had the audit a few years ago, not the audit, but the reevaluation, our county manager presented the board with a tax rate of 62 cents, which was lowered from 98 cents. The board met, and several citizens had got phone calls, or the board had got several phone calls from citizens about the finances that had been cut from the schools, and asked us to please look after schools. So we took 1 more cent for the schools, went 63 cents. We could have left the tax rate at 63 cents. But by doing so, over the next period, history repeats itself. There would have probably been a tax increase anywhere from 10, 15, possibly 20 cents. By leaving it at 63 cents, if you just went 7 cents for the next, until the next reevaluation period, you would have been at a tax rate of 70 cents, which would have cost every citizen per $100,000 in property value over $300. By going to 4 cents, trying to break history and remaining at 64 cents through the entire reevaluation period to the next reevaluation, it only cost each citizen per $100,000 only $80 through that whole period. And that's what I'm asking this board to continue to do with the plan, stay at 64 cents. Now is not the time to take so much out of the fund balance to pay on capital debt. After the next reevaluation, after the county is financially strong, then that'll be the time to do so. We can remain at 64 cents through the entire reevaluation period as long as you stay steady and keep growing the fund balance. When you grow the fund balance, then before the next reevaluation, you have something to fall back on and to pull from without taxing the citizens of Gates County. And that's the plan. That not only does that do good for the county, it does good for the citizens, and that every citizen in this county, they can do their budget at home to pay for the meals and the insurance and the welfare of their families, because they know what their taxes are going to be from one year to the next. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Wade.